When you face negative racism because of skin color, religion, language, like I said, it's a system which is behind that. And it's not about the person itself and about equality from the person. It's really a system which puts people in a place and tell them, like, you have to stay here with school, with education, with a lot of things.
I think it's also crazy that most diseases aren't even being studied in black people. They're only being studied in white people. And especially if it comes to diseases with symptoms that show on the skin, many doctors just don't have any books to look it up with images of black people. They can only diagnose it in white people just because science isn't really studying it in black people.
In which areas do you see these kind of inequality or discrimination? Clearly, maybe in housing, finding accommodation, or jobs, or education. In which areas is it prominent?
All the areas you said.
That also when black people protest, in the media it's reported as uprising and as trouble, while if hooligans go on the street and destroy cars for a football game, it's reported as crowd going a bit rough, but everything's okay. And the black people are always the rowdies and the destructive force.
Schön, dass ihr da seid. Herzlich willkommen. Schön, dass ihr den Kofaya Social Justice Day mit uns begleitet. Und ich würde sagen, ich gebe ab. Und jetzt in Englisch.
Hello everyone. Hello. And thank you very much for making today a possibility. And before we start everything, I would want to say we are the EAAN Aura Podcast. A group of 7 gentlemen. Some couldn't make it because they have school, some have work, and our aim is just to talk about lifestyle, relatable content, which every single person or every single individual who come from maybe Africa or maybe is even born here can relate. Example, we talk about dating in Europe and other things that every single soul can relate to. And before we start, I would want to introduce the guests I have on the panel today. And on my left, we go from my left, and I know we all know Priscilla, but I would want Priscilla to introduce herself. So Priscilla.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Priscilla Hirschhausen. I'm a social entrepreneur between Ghana and Germany. I love to do social projects. I have an own fashion label, which is also an empowerment project for tailors in Ghana. And we are doing upcycling stuff. And I'm in Germany also an anti-racism trainer. And this is, I think...
Thank you very much, Priscilla. And to my next person.
Hello, my name is Mariama. I'm a fashion designer and seamstress, and I'm from Germany and Italy, and of course from Guinea. And I was invited very spontaneously, so to some questions I already sort of know the answer, to others I'm still soul searching, but I'm really happy to be here today.
And the last person is also my co-host, and he will be also helping coordinating today, and it's Asari from EAAN Aura Podcast. But bro, do you want to?
Hello everyone, my name is Asari. I'm from Ghana. I'm a master's student at FAU. I'm also a co-host on the EAAN Aura Podcast. It's nice to meet you.
So let's get right into it. And as Priscilla had already given a little bit overview of what we are going to talk about today, which is the social justice. And I know most of us here have questions, or they still have doubts about what this social justice means. So let's dive right into it. So I would want to ask my esteemed panelists, Priscilla and Mariama, when we are talking about social justice, can you explain to a layman, someone who knows nothing about what social justice is?
To me, social justice is equality in chances. This sometimes means giving sort of advantages to those who start from an unfair point. So, as it is, not everyone starts from the same starting line in the race. So we need to give out scholarships and better access to education to those who come from lower income groups. Let's say so.
Yeah.
And I think it would also be important to, for instance, give language courses at schools for kids with migrational backgrounds, because it's a massive difference if you have someone at home who can help you with your homework, or if you have someone at home who struggles with your homework, with even the simplest exercises. I myself experienced this growing up in Italy with a German mom. I had to go to my friends' houses, and I'm really grateful that I had that opportunity, that my friends' parents helped me integrate there. But not everyone has that. Sometimes what can be an uplifting group of people with the same migrational background can also become a hindrance, can become sort of a cage, meaning if your parents only know people with the same migrational background, it's very hard for you to find a local family that can help you with your homework or with learning the language in a proper way, which just means in a way that would give you higher educational access.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And sorry.
I agree with Mariama. For me, I think it's equal access to resources and opportunities. So, like she mentioned, I mean, giving scholarships and all that could help put people in a position where they could have equal access to these opportunities. Like, for instance, like the language, learning the language, for instance, because in Germany there are various opportunities that you can get, but because you don't know the language, you may be qualified. Everything else, you could take every box, but you could still not get that opportunity just because you don't speak the language. Even sometimes where there's an opportunity where the requirements doesn't stipulate that the language is needed, even when you go later, they be like, okay, you don't know the language. In a way, it's understandable, but I mean, like you said, it would help put people or who didn't start on the same starting line, like on the same level as everyone, to get equal access to resources and opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in the nutshell, it's giving everyone the equal opportunity to food and amenities, jobs, and everything. But my second question is going to Priscilla. Can you say someone's background or where they come from can affect or plays a role in this thing called social justice?
I think it's yes, definitely. Being a person who is facing negative racism definitely faces also social injustice when it comes to school. Like Mariama also said, when it comes to language, when it comes to chances to go to a better school, to a gymnasium or something like that. Skin color, language, your name, your religion, this all relates to having a problem with social justice, definitely.
Yeah. Would you say that the people that do face inequality, is it as a result of, say, maybe lack of certain qualities, or just maybe where they are from or social standing?
I would say it's discrimination, a system which we have since ever, and racism since 500 years. I mean, racism we have also, I think, since ever, but the last 500 years with colonialism made a structure that especially black people or let's talk about Germany. In Germany, people who are black, or in German it's easier to say BIPOC. Is this in English also BIPOC? I don't know. So when you face negative racism because of skin color, religion, language, like I said, it's a system which is behind that. And it's not about the person itself and about equality from the person. It's really a system which puts people in a place and tell them, like, you have to stay here with school, with education, with a lot of things.
In which areas do you like see these kind of inequality or discrimination, like clearly, maybe in like housing, finding accommodation or jobs or education? In which areas is it like prominent?
All the areas you said. Like there is I'm struggling with my English. I'm struktureller Rassismus, structural racism. When you want to find a job, for example, when you are Muslima and you are wearing a hijab, you want to find a job, you're sending an application. Every 6th application you send, maybe you will get an answer because of the hijab you are wearing. Then, of course, when you're looking for a flat, like you said, this is also really difficult. For example, my last name is Hirschhausen, and when I was looking for a flat, my German is really German, what I wanted to say. You can't know that I am a black person when I speak German with you, know. Okay. And then on the phone, everything cool, and then I come to the flat, and then you are Frau Hirschhausen. Oh, sorry. The flat is not anymore there for you. Wow. Crazy, super crazy. You know, this is yes. I would say in all the fields in life we are facing racism, which leads to social injustice.
Mariam, have you experienced anything like that or heard about it?
So my dad, he lived in Nuremberg for about 20 years. And he couldn't find a bigger apartment here when his second wife joined him from Guinea. Okay. And he had 3 more children living with him. And they had to stay in a 2-room flat because it was impossible for him to find a bigger apartment here in Nuremberg. And when he finally moved to Kiel, which is close to Strasbourg, close to the French border, where there's way more immigrants, especially from Africa, he finally managed to find a bigger flat. Oh. But it took him, I want to say, 5 years of looking here and not finding anything, And also my sister wasn't able to get her matura here in Nuremberg, but she got it in a French school. There was possible.
Wow. To add to what they are all saying, I also have a friend who has a German surname. And she told me that when I was looking for my job, they spoke with me on the phone. She was also born here. She speaks very good German, perfect German, and it was very nice. So they invited her for the zweite Runde, the second round. And when they just started with camera, the guy was like, "I'm sorry, but I had to laugh because I thought it was a white or a German girl behind the voice. But I'm sorry, but I don't know." But then she had a job, but then it wasn't easy for her. So I think this is something that really needs to be addressed, where people wouldn't be given the position or the opportunity they deserve because of where they come from or their backgrounds, or maybe you have to change your identity to fit a certain criteria before you are being recognized. So I think everything they are saying here is really true, and I have friends who tell me these things. So yeah. You're all right. Yeah. So back to this housing, the education, and jobs. Within these areas, where do we find this kind of inequalities, or in these areas, where is this inequalities very prominent? Mariama?
In all areas?
Good questions. I think it's really prominent in all areas. I've definitely secondhand experienced it in all areas. But the one that I find the hardest is housing, just because if you don't have housing, everything else sort of is really difficult.
Yeah, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, so that's the area where it worries me the most. And the other areas, I think it's more possible to equalize it, to sort of go around it, maybe go study abroad like my sister did, or just to avoid them. While housing is essential, you need housing to be good at school, to be good at your work, at your job. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I would say if you have the possibility or the privilege to have the money to go for studying abroad, then it's super cool. But this education part, being seen as a person who can't make it in the system. Yes, I think seventh class, my teacher said to me, "You will never make it, Priscilla. Never. You will never make the Hauptschule." And I had a lot of teachers who did not believe in me because I was black. At the beginning, I did not recognize what is the problem, but I had 2 other black people in the class. We had the same problems, the same talks from the teachers and so on. So education is a big part, because this is the future for yourself. So if you can't make it to go maybe to a school which helps you, maybe you can't make the university, maybe you can't do that what you want, you can't unfold yourself, you have not the chance to be you, to to bring all the things out what you have in yourself. And education is a big part, and then also the health system is also really a problem. I was fighting, I think, 7 years with endometriosis. It's a disease where your period blood, sorry, podcast guys, where your period blood is stuck in your abdomen. Thank you. No, in your belly. No, abdomen.
Yeah, abdomen. Yeah.
And all the doctors were like, there's nothing. I mean, also white people are facing that, but there are also studies about that doctors think that black people, they are more resistant against pain, for example, and then it's no, it's not that wild, it's not so bad.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yes.
What I want to say about the last part, I think it's also crazy that most diseases aren't even being studied in black people. They're only being studied in white people. And especially if it comes to diseases with symptoms that show on the skin, many doctors just don't have any books to look it up with images of black people. They can only diagnose it in white people just because science isn't really studying it on black people. That's really crazy.
Yeah.
So it's basically when science books, they use white people as the example. So when it comes to black people, they don't really know how to go. But then the body is still the same. It's still the same blood that flows through everyone. But then, yeah, it's how that's how the system has been built. So yeah. Sorry.
Unlike their situation or examples, the ones that I have heard the most about, like the inequality part, is in the job applications or in job findings. Because I also have a friend who some way, somehow managed to get a job. I think at the time that he went for the trial, the main boss wasn't around. So those around saw his work and he can do the work, that kind of thing. And then he got accepted to do it for a trial, I think for a month or so, and then his contract would be extended. So he did the work, everything, and then a month came, or getting to the end of the month, the boss was now around to go and get an extension. And then in the conversation, while talking with the boss realized that he cannot speak German. And then the boss was like, "You cannot speak German." So how did you get the job? Then he was like, oh, he came and everything. But because the boss had been seeing him around, but they hadn't had a conversation. It was then that he's finding out he can't speak the German. And according to my friend, he did the job for 1 month without needing German to do it. The job didn't include having to have conversation with customers or maybe even with colleagues, which according to him, they spoke fine English and they got along fine and everything was fine. But because he couldn't speak German, he didn't get it. But then he also mentioned that a friend of his who had no qualifications for that job got it. And there are also like several examples where, like you also mentioned that they talk on the phone, the German is good, like they grow up here and then they show up and they they come up with something that all of a sudden it's there, like, oh, the job is no more available, or maybe we went with somebody else, but why did you call me for the interview to get me all the way here, So in my experience, or from friends and all that, it's mostly in the job, like in the job search and all that. Yeah.
So, without wasting much time, moving on to the next, I would want to know what keeps the system unfair.
Habit. I would say habit. And obviously, even if everything was fair right now, there would still be a generational disadvantage that most white people had 500 years to get an advantage on most people from the global south, on most BIPOCs. And I think as long as the people in power profit from the system, it's difficult to change it. So what would really help is, of course, if through easier access to education, the people in power would look more like the people. Then I think change would be more realistic. There were more people of color in power, in positions of power, more politicians, more doctors, and I think that would change it.
I also think that it comes, like you also mentioned, that even if the system was fair, there would also be like a generational disadvantage. But in the sense that there are people who still think of people of maybe another race or another ethnicity as lesser than them, which in turn, like maybe their children pick up or those around them pick up, which in a way you would say maybe it's not their fault because so their predecessors, that's how they thought and that's how they spoke or acted. Like if a child is with their mother or father and see the way they treat maybe another person, maybe, for example, a black person very poorly, like this person isn't a human being or less of a human being, they grow up to think that's how it should be or that's how it is. So I feel like even if in positions of power and or important places, but still would come down to the individual people that have that kind of mindset about us being or other people being less of them or not as, important or, that kind of mentality. So, that would be the case.
Priscilla?
Yes, please.
Do you have something to contribute on the reasons or what keeps the system unfair?
To people who are in power, to people who want to keep the power, who are making the laws. Yes, I think this...
And this then comes to what I would want to ask the next, and it's, do we all think that politicians and the institution they don't fully grasp it, or they are just trying to avoid it? They just know this is the wrong thing to do, but they're just trying to avoid it.
I think they're not necessarily ignoring it or trying to avoid it. I think they're not affected by it because the politicians and the people in power aren't yet representative of the people. And so they can't really grasp how important it is. They might think that other topics are more important and have priority on these topics. while there's obviously some that very openly avoid it, that know about it and want to make things worse. I think what's really important is there being more politicians for themselves of color, or maybe in a relationship and have children of color, and therefore have a day-to-day experience of what the daily reality is regarding these topics.
There's this thing that back home that we used to say that everything is funny until it happens to you. So like you mentioned that if like they have like children of color, or maybe for some reason they fall in love with a black person and their wife or their husband is being treated a certain way, I mean it hits harder than seeing it, you know. So yeah, that would also like be funny a little, to be honest. I don't know, because sometimes if you haven't experienced it yourself, or at least somebody close to you, it doesn't hit as much, or it doesn't, should I say hit as much, or it doesn't mean as much. Like example, like the 9/11 in the US, when it happened, I mean, if you didn't live there, I mean it's sad, but it would be sadder if it happened next to us, maybe in Switzerland or in Prague. Like, I mean, it was just here, you know. So that could also, that would also be the case.
So let's try creating this link, and I would want to link this to the colonial times. And do we think this colonial influences still have an influence on this global injustice, or this global justice today?
Absolutely. I mean, we already spoke about generational disadvantage. So I think that is one way it still influences social injustice today. And then we obviously still have so many institutions and laws that are around from back then. This has nothing to do with people of color, but for instance, there is still a law that women, or there was still until 2018, that women can't rent apartments by themselves in Bavaria. This law was around for a long, long time, and there's still systematic oppression from back then that's still in place today. I firmly believe that.
That would like boil back to, like I said, like people, even if they're people in those positions, still comes down to what people individually think. Because I mean, something like this has been around for a long time, and now that you know, women aren't as oppressed before, shouldn't be, like, you know, realize that women shouldn't be as oppressed like that. Still, people do think like that, regardless of maybe say there have been reformed laws that it should be okay or should be fine for a woman to do it by themselves, but there are still people who still think that way.
And I think the whole discrimination system is the problem. It's not only racism; it's every kind of discrimination. We know, ableism, sexism, like you mentioned. This is the problem itself, which is made by the powerful, who are in power and who want to keep the power, and who want to run the system like that, so that everything stays like it is, so they still can take advantage from it.
Yeah, like as I said, it's funny if it's not closer to you, or it's not closer to you. So they are still keeping these things because they have nothing to lose, and they would still want to do the same things because in effect it's not getting to them. So I think it's something that really needs to be spoken of. I think, one day we'll get there. One day we will get there.
I'm not sure if we will see that. I think when something was there 500 years, it takes maybe another 500 years.
No, we are getting there.
We are getting there.
We are eventually getting there. So in talking about this social injustice thing, who gets hurt when we talk about this fairness or injustice? Who gets hurt, or whose voices are being heard when it comes to these topics?
For one, people who are affected by racism, meaning people who are racist, because I feel like those are the real victims here. The people who are racist. It's easier for them to respect the opinion of an ally, of a white person representing the BIPOC diaspora. So it's also easier for them to speak about it because they're not personally affected, so they don't need to filter through emotions to bring a objective statement. They can just speak from their heart and still be relatively objective. While for us, there comes a lot of experiences, a lot of suffering that we've personally experienced, or the people close to us have experienced, that we need to sort of filter through to make it more digestible for white people to hear these truths. So I think as it is, it's really important in the one-on-one and the personal relationships to hear people of color, but in the bigger picture, I think it's also really important to have allies who pick up the conversation and bring it on.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, because if someone you say have something in common with, say some things like the way, like this analogy, like somebody else can say, or I can say, I love you. It would mean something different to you than, say, somebody you have a crush on, or your husband or your boyfriend says it to you. So if maybe someone like who's of the same, I don't know, background as you or a friend or something, and it says like that, I think it, like you said, it will go a longer way than maybe a total stranger like me telling you about it. Doesn't really hit as much. Like I mentioned, I mean, it's funny until it happens to you or it's close to you. So if there's somebody close to you, or maybe you do have a friend who is actively, experiencing all of these things, it hits closer to home for you to feel like you have to offer a voice, or you can't offer a voice, or you feel, or when you do offer a voice, you don't feel like it's pressure. Like you are supposed to be human, but you feel very compassionate about it, or passionate about it, to talk about it as well, or to push the message as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so in so doing, we've had people who started speaking for themselves in this social injustice thing, and we've had various rallies, various activists, and people coming or talking about these things. Do people get hurt when they talk about or speak for themselves?
In Germany?
Yeah, or in Germany, Europe, everywhere. Do we have people who get hurt when they talk about or when they speak up for themselves?
Heard from the police, from the government?
Yeah, or people in power?
I would say yes, we have freedom of speech in Germany. We have freedom of making demonstrations, but there is definitely a way from the government, from the police especially, how they treat people when they find it too. It's not even aggressive. If there is a demonstration and they are not standing behind them, definitely they will make the demonstration harder for them. Will make them harder for them. It's not like that they can't beat you, they can't bring you in jail for speaking up when it's your opinion, but they can make life harder for you.
Oh, wow. Because we've seen rallies or this protests, and you see police being with the people, guiding and everything, but sometimes you could see there's a clear difference. Here in Nuremberg, I've seen black people having a protest, and I've seen white people or Germans having protests, and you see the number of police with the guards and everything. But when it comes to other people, and you see the number of security men around, and you see what's going on? Are these people not also humans? But then, this still boils down to the topic or what we are driving at. And I would want to also know that do we have a deeper, is there any deeper reasons in connection to this? Is there
What do you
any
mean?
deeper reasons or deeper thoughts or certain reasons that boils down to this thing where a black person will do this, it goes everywhere, or maybe, like example, these knife attacks that has been happening in the country for the past few weeks. There was one Afghan guy everywhere. It was published everywhere. Every media outlet you could see. But then there's one attack in Mannheim where a German just drove into people, and people didn't even know about it. It was just social media where some black activists were talking about it. But then we didn't know until it came that it was a German man. So is there any deeper reasons or deeper connections to this?
That's systemic racism right there. That also when black people protest, in the media it's reported as uprising and as trouble, while if hooligans go on the street and destroy cars for a football game, it's reported as crowd going a bit rough, but everything's okay. And the black people are always the rowdies and the destructive force. I think that's one of the most basic systems of racism, how it's repropagated. And yeah.
And on to the next, how can diasporans use their voices to amplify this social injustice going on now? Like, how can we, the diasporans, use our voices to amplify or make people know what's going on?
I think first of all, knowledge is a huge thing. When I'm in the diaspora, I have to get more ideas what is going on in my country, what are the people facing, talking with people, looking through the internet. Different perspectives are very interesting to get to know. And when I have the knowledge about that, then of course I can decide where I want to bring my responsibility, where I maybe can support a project, maybe I can make by myself a project, or at least to support something from my privileged perspective is, I think, a minimum what I can do here when I live in Germany as a diasporan.
And Mariam, on to you. I would want to know, how would a fairer Germany look like in practice?
That's a tough question. I think a fairer Germany would offer language courses at the schools, like I mentioned in the beginning, to give kids with migrational background or even from lower income families the possibility to level with those that start from a point of advantage. So maybe educated parents educated in Germany, because your parents can have studied abroad and often the education isn't even recognized here. But especially someone can be really clever in one language and still not be able to help their kid learn the local language, in this case German, to the point of being able to go to university one day. And I think another thing would be more big companies changing to English, like Adidas or Puma, for instance, are doing, or even Siemens.
No.
So that it doesn't become important speaking German to get the job if German isn't even relevant for the job itself.
And we have Priscilla. Maybe you have something to say?
Yes, I would
Okay,
love to add
please
some.
go ahead.
Education is a big thing. So as an anti-racism trainer, I make workshops today, for example, at the educators from the kindergarten, then also teachers, all people who grew up in Europe, now in Germany, we are talking about Germany, are rassistisch sozialisiert, racist socialized.
Yeah.
Check. And we all have to learn not to be a racist, even we black people who grew up here. So that means workshops, exchange, getting books, knowledge, all these things are leading to a change. But first of all, I have to accept that I'm a racist, that I grew up in a racist country, not like with guiltiness and shame. So easy sometimes. Shame. but with responsibility. Like, okay, we grew up here, this is the history, and it's not about blaming me, myself or other people. It's about taking the responsibility for the future and for the time right now. So I think to educate myself and to exchange with other people about this topic can lead to a change. And then, of course, changing all the politicians. Definitely. Definitely.
What?
So when we talk about change, even black people, some people are afraid of change. Some don't embrace change. Some have issues when things are being changed for the better or for the worse. So not everyone wants change. What resistance have you seen, especially for black people who are pushing for change, racism and everything? What resistance have you all seen or maybe noticed about this group of people?
Unfortunately, some of the resistance, or at least those who maybe, let's say, I don't want to use the word agree, but sort of not see the bigger picture, like people who some way, somehow have benefited from said situation. Like, for example, like the job, whatever, like maybe they got it easy because maybe they knew somebody, so they got the job, so they feel, or they don't want to put themselves in a position where they lose their standing amongst their friends or something like that. So usually, at least in my experience, especially when conversations like this come up and there's some people who strongly feel different or begin to sound like they look different than you and I, or from their people from their ethnicity, they're usually people who have benefited from what we are saying that we haven't like had the opportunity to enjoy as well. That's what I've noticed anyway. Yeah.
Mariama, maybe you have something to add?
Not really.
Priscilla, maybe you have something to add to maybe seeing people with resistance to change and...
I find it funny because in Ghana, really, a lot of Ghanaians, they don't like change. Everything should be the same. They're used to the system, even if the system is not that good. In a lot of things, I was questioning, like, why it should be like that. Yeah, we are used to that. It's more easy, blah, blah, blah. And we don't know what the change will bring. Maybe it will get worse. And this insecurity is a huge problem for ourselves, I think, because when you feel insecure, you swim like you're not strong with your mind. You want to do that. You're like, oh God, I don't know what will happen. And that's huge. It's a huge for some people it's a huge problem, and for some people it can be a change. So
yeah. So it's the nutshell. We all have problems in embracing change, but I want to ask this, but then it's specifically to you, Priscilla, because you have been having workshops on anti-racism and anti or social injustice or this type of things. And I would want to say, how do you stay motivated in doing these things, even though the change is not coming as how we expect it to come? How do you stay motivated in doing this?
Yeah. The funny thing is, I have the privilege to see more change than other people, because in my workshops, I can see the change. I can see when people are reflecting, when they're like, okay, yeah, it's like that. And, oh God, I'm so sorry for that. And I was always thinking like that. And really, each workshop I'm touched. I'm so touched because people are unlearning racism, and I can see it, I can hear it, I can feel it. Even today, the workshop, it touched me so when 10 people are in this room, and after 4 hours, they're like, damn, we want to change. We want to change something. We are going back in our kindergarten. We are buying the toys which are diverse or something like that. You know, they are coming, and I can see it, so I can stay motivated because I see the change in my job every time. It's easier for me.
And I would want to ask Mariama this question. Do you think there's hope for the future?
Definitely. I think there's hope for the future. Because if I look back at how it was when I was a kid, I already see so much change. I see for my little siblings that they had a way bigger choice in dolls that looked like them, that turning on the TV, were way better represented. Also, thanks to streaming and other developments, where you're not depending on what's coming on TV, but you can choose and you can pick the shows with people that look like you. And instead of watching Big Brother, you can watch a reality show about the rich people of Africa and how they live.
Yeah.
And see a different representation of Africa than just the 2 seconds of an advertisement with starving children. Because that's the representation of Black people on TV that I grew up with, you know. So I think there's still a long way to go. But we should also stop and look back and see where we came from, that we already did achieve a lot.
Yeah.
I also like think that the future looks great because, especially in school where I am, currently I'm the only Black person in my department. Yeah, so even if I miss class, my lecturer knows I didn't show up. Yeah, be like, I didn't see you, where were you? Yeah, but the reason why I say that is because in conversations with some of them, one lady specifically told me that anytime she sees me, she feels guilty because she grew up where like Black people were discriminated and all that. So when she sees me, she has this urge to, like, she feels guilty basically because she thought that way. And in her interactions with me, it always looked like she was overcompensating or trying in her best way to like please me in some way, shape, or form. So when we had that conversation, and then she also assumed, or she said that usually the reason why she feels guilty is because she feels like every Black person that she sees sort of harbors like hate or dislike towards her. And I mentioned and I said that, I mean, you didn't do anything to them. And maybe there may be some people that may harbor such feelings based off of what they've experienced and whatnot. But in general, we are fine, or at least I'm okay, because I deal with each person individually anyway, because until you treat me a certain way, you and I are fine, you know, until you talk down on me or not offer me an opportunity because I'm darker than you or something, everything is great. And so I told her that anytime she sees a Black person like that, she should think of it as like a clean slate and just see the other person as same as her and just interact with the person as with the person, not just based off of the people that maybe she saw her parent or her family members or those around her discriminate and feel like everybody hates each other and all that, and she should just be okay. And when we had that conversation, there were like 3 other people who were listening, and apparently they felt the same way. And then since then, we are great. So it looks good. I feel like
that's hope for the future. Yeah. So, dear audience, I hope you all took one or two from these conversations we had, and maybe we've learned 1 or 2 from this on how we would treat other people from different backgrounds or different immigration history. So, unfortunately, we have to come to an end of this live show, and I would want to give my guest or my was soll ich das sagen? Aber
The last word, or say bye bye?
yeah. So, if maybe the audience we have one or two questions for my for our honorable guests, we can just throw up the questions and we will just go. If anyone has any question or maybe etwas unklar, wenn etwas unklar ist, kann man diese Frage stellen und dann unser...
You wanted to say you can also ask in German.
Ja, also sogar auf Deutsch, ich kann es trotzdem übersetzen und yeah, maybe someone has a question but maybe it's English and they don't know how they would want to go about it. If anyone has any question, einfach so die Fragen stellen und dann ja, wird die Fragen beantwortet. Ja. Ganz kurz.
Sorry.
Ja.
Oh.
Okay, I would like to know what I can do as a white person in Germany to have to make this world a better place.
Mhm. Und noch was? Okay. Yeah.
I think show up. You know, like I've had a situation where a lady on the bus wasn't using her headphones and she was watching really racist videos of a very racist politician. This was in Italy. It was sort of the Italian equivalent of an AfD politician. And at the end of the bus ride, I asked her if she couldn't use headphones like everyone else. And she started shouting at me to go back where I came from. And I was like, oh, don't worry. Once I'm done with my studies, I'm going to go back to Germany. And she was very shocked at that, of course. But everyone in the bus was looking at us. Everyone was staring. And after the situation, a young man came up to me and he said, thank you so much for speaking up. And I just looked at him and was like, where were you in the situation, though? Why didn't you speak up in the situation? So my takeaway from the situation is, on one hand, he did something great in reinforcing my point of view, even if he just had the courage to do this to me personally. The ideal thing would be to speak up and help the person of color, or even just distract. If you don't have the courage to speak up, just distract. Just start a conversation with the person who's being treated racistly, and sort of take away the momentum from the person who's acting racistly by just ignoring them together with the person who's sort of in a pickle.
And to add to your question, I would say just see everyone as one. No matter the skin color, no matter where they come from, if you can offer help where you can offer, don't say this person is a black person, so they are resistant to pain, they can do this, or they can carry this in themselves. Anything you can do to help, if it was a white woman or a white person, to a black person, just do it. Or just see this person as, hey, we are the same people, same blood flows to each, we have the same blood group, blood type or everything, or see this person as your sibling, how you treat your sister. That's the only thing I would say.
Yeah, and also, I mean, not all the time that you would get the opportunity to maybe to like join protests and stuff like that. I mean, let's be honest, sometimes when the protest is happening, maybe it's too sunny, you can't go out, you know, or if not eating, I mean, you don't have the energy anyway to walk that long. So maybe something like in the little things, like maybe you are on a bus and then all of a sudden another person is telling somebody who is sitting down to get up because like the seat is not for him or it's not for her or whatever. And be like, I mean, we're all equal. So you came to meet the person, they allow the person to sit, you know, because sometimes it takes another white person to tell the other person, like, what you're doing doesn't make sense.
That's right.
So stop. Yeah. You know, because in a situation like that, or said people feel some level of seniority or superiority.
Yeah.
So if somebody else who technically they are of the same superiority, like he sees it, says what you're doing doesn't make sense, he can snap out of it. Or so and so be embarrassed, be like, and just it ends there. So in the little things, you don't necessarily have to like hold a placard and all that. It's just like in the little things.
Yeah. Maybe on your social media, you can just help propagate something. And please, give some fragen.
Can I?
Yes.
Can I add
Sorry.
something?
Sorry. Please, you have to. You can.
That you're here is awesome. I think this is the start to get chances or places where you can get more exchange with people who are facing social injustice. Then, of course, everything what they said, and on top, if you have the chance, for example, to talk with your friends about this topic, to invite your friends to really say, let's talk about this 2-3 hours together, how can we do a change, and also maybe in university, in school, in work, every opportunity you have to talk about this would be nice if you take the chance also. And I forgot the other thing. Maybe it will come back later. Tanzen.
Gibt es noch Fragen? Okay, dann sonst I will give. Gibt's noch Fragen?
I'm sorry. No, I know it. To contribute, for example, in an NGO which is making anti-racism work or work for any kind of discrimination or anti any kind of discrimination, I think to give time, to give your energy, this is awesome. Yeah, this is helpful.
Speaking of which, do you know any like such movement or organizations like that are making you can recommend?
We integrate this in Nürnberg, a very huge, it's a good organization to be as a volunteer against social justice, definitely.
Yeah, then I would want to give my able and honorable panelists just a minute that they could just summarize everything that we've spoken here, maybe a takeaway message for the audience or something you can just, because we say last minutes are dangerous. So the last one you can tell someone that the person can go and say, oh, today I went for this program and this is what they said. Even though the whole hours you couldn't hear anything, just one word from you can maybe just make a change. So please, everyone, just a minute. For me, I would say show up and show off. Show up when your friend needs help. Show off, help the person.
Visit a workshop, make an exchange, and try to get to know people who are not in your bubble to widen your horizon.
If you're trying to profit from your personal contacts to find out more about the topic, maybe try asking first if they have the headspace to do so. Because to do this kind of work, and it is emotional labor, can take up a lot of energy. And so, ask if they're in the headspace and if they feel informed to do so. Because I just know what a journey it was for me to even think that I might have something to contribute to a conversation like this. So not everyone might feel like they're affected in a way, or they have reflected on it in a way that they can actually give you an insight.
I also think what Emmanuel also said, that showing up, like I said, also like in the little things, because sometimes that small gesture could cancel out the damage that the other person did in the other person's heart or mind, because like, there's like, okay, not all of them are bad. Someone stood up for me. The same kind of person stood up for me. So it's just that one person. So like Emmanuel said, showing up and showing out or showing off.
So, ich würde mich bedanken für eure Aufmerksamkeit. We appreciate it. Also, wir schätzen das sehr gern. dass ihr da dabei warst, or that you were here, you listen, you ask questions. Asking questions made us feel that you guys were actually listening to what we were saying. And wie gesagt, wir schätzen das gern. Und wenn ihr Fragen oder so irgendwas kam oder kommt im Kopf oder so, wir können uns auf Social Media, auf Kofaya oder auf EAAN Aura Podcast die Fragen stellen und wir werden gerne dabei helfen, um was zu erklären oder irgendwas in Unklarheit zu erklären. Und I would say thank you very much, and to my guests, ich würde sagen, danke sehr für euer Zeit und euer Wesenheit, also Weisheit, dass you were able to help us share your knowledge and educate our audience on what it's supposed to be and not to be. And I would say thank you very much for coming, and to the organizers for the show, I would say thank you very much for the privilege, for allowing us collaborate, or for this collaboration to come into a reality. Wir sagen immer Tschüss und danke fürs Kommen. Ciao.
Sweet. Ciao. Yes, I want to say also thank you that you took the time to come, that you, thought about the questions and everything, and that you contributed Kofaya together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.